Yeah, what we are looking at today is project costs. So if you are given a project to handle as a project manager or yeah, as the engineer, so before you run around thinking about your bill of quantity, your working drawing, and all of that, so there are some basic things you should know to be able to handle your a project. So one of those things is being segmented. We have the direct costs, then we have the indirect costs, then we have contingency costs, then we have profit and markup. So and all these points has other points underneath it. So we are going to be looking at each and every of those points, you know, sharing ideas on the importance of each of these costs. For instance, for your direct costs, you have the first point there is labor. So and this labor has to do, maybe you are to construct a 3 bedroom bungalow, for instance. So you are going to be needing labor to in your foundation. Maybe you're trying to dig your foundation, your trenching, your iron bender, those guys that are going to help you to either do manual mixing of cement, because if you are not buoyant enough to make use of machines and equipment, so you resort to manual labor. So you are going to make use of all those laborers. Then maybe you molded your blocks yourself, and you are going to need labor to help move those blocks to where the blocks are going to be laid, right? So and other areas where you're going to need labor, maybe you are trying to gather your woods together, you're going to use your labor. Mixing of your cement, you use your labor, right? And your labor is going to be helpful, assisting, helping to ensure that the work is done with ease, right? Then we have materials. So you have to also have in mind that your materials are very, very crucial, because if you have materials on ground, it helps speed up the construction time. You'll be able to actually arrange your construction procedure, which before which after which, because you already know that the material aspect has been taken care of. So if you have your cement, maybe 100 bags, 50 bags, 1,000 bags of cement in stock, you won't be bothering to start ordering for cement. The only thing you'll be bothering about is the utilization of the cement you have on ground. Then the other point we have is equipment. Materials are important, then your equipment too are also important, because it's those equipments that are going to ensure the utilization of the material. Like your concrete mixer, if your concrete mixer is not available on site, and you have a large surface area to cast, it becomes unproductive for you to start using manual labor, because you're going to tend to use more cash, right? At the end of the day, you tend to spend more. Maybe you have to cast maybe 50 bags of cement, so you now have to maybe get about 20 to 30 people to mix the cement, then using buckets to move the cement. Maybe you're trying to cast the slab of the first floor. You start using manual labor to move the cement to the first floor. But if you have your pulley system and you have your concrete mixer, all this can be done with just a couple of 5 to 6, maximum 10 people, right? Depending on the area you're casting, and the job is done efficiently for you. Then the next aspect to look at is subcontractor cost. Yeah, at subcontractor level, we have all these people that are going to be bringing granite for you, the people that are going to bring cement for you, the people that are going to bring the sharp sand. All these are subcontractors. You that are giving them the job is the contractor, right? But you need these subcontractors to actually supplement and give you all these materials that are required. So at subcontractors cost, you have to actually know, maybe for your sand, the quantity of sand that is going to be required, and who you are going to channel that particular material to as a subcontractor to supply those sands for you. Maybe your cement, how many quantity of cement you need. Maybe the project time is maybe 3 months, and you need cement to rush through the process so that you can actually deliver on the project. Then who is going to supply this cement to you? Or do you need granite, gravel, and the likes of them? So who are going to do the supply for you? These are subcontractors. So the cost for these subcontractors is very, very important. So you have to actually know your costing, then factor all these subcontractor costs, the transportation for delivering of your materials on site, and so on and so forth. Then indirect costs, that is number 2. So all these ones I enlisted at the first phase is the direct cost, right? So for the indirect cost, we have site overhead. Yeah, for site overhead, site overhead is the cost that you are going to be using for your maintenance or running around on the site. So all these costs are very, very important. That is where your transportation cost is. That is where your feeding is. That is where your maybe loading and offloading of cement, loading and offloading of blocks, loading and offloading of all these materials on site. So it's in your overhead cost, right? Then the next this thing to check, the next point to check is administrative expenses. Yes, administrative expenses is also very, very important in construction, because yes, the people running the site is running the site, then you that are doing the either the documents, signing, and all those things, you fuel your car, you move from one office to another if it is a government related project. Then if it is not, regardless which it is, you are still going to make some expenses. So that is where administrative expenses comes in. Then utilities, right? As the name implies, utilities are just these normal things we do, but in construction you tend to factor all these expenses. Yeah, the next point we have is temporary facilities rather. So for temporary facilities, this could be your toilet on site, your site office, which some people usually use container for, right? Maybe some temporary structures. So all these temporary facilities that are not even part of the construction itself, or the part of the structure, but it only helps to facilitate the structure or the construction procedure, you understand, on ground. So it only helps to aid the construction itself. So these temporary structures are actually removed at the end of the day. So the cost of constructing them, the cost of removing them too at the end of it, because you factor in the cost of constructing them, then you also factor in the cost of removing those structures at the end of the day. Yeah, contingency, as we know, is money you set aside for unexpected eventualities. You understand? You are not expecting incidents on site, but it may occur. You are not expecting collapse on site, but it may occur. So contingencies expenses are what you remove from, you actually add it to your bill of engineering measurement and evaluation, so that at the end of the day you remove that money, you keep it aside, so that if there is an incident, it's not the construction cost now you'll be using to facilitate for the incident itself. So you're only going to make use of the money you've set aside for contingencies, right? Yeah, aside contingencies, then we have unexpected expenses. So for your unexpected expenses, you also tend to set aside a reasonable amount, so that when such eventualities actually occur, you are able to still continue with your construction procedure. You don't need to stop the whole construction process because an eventuality occurred, or you didn't factor in your contingencies expenses. Then I think the third point we have is profit and markup. So we have profit and markup. So when you are trying to do your bill of engineering measurement and evaluation, you have to factor in your profit, because this is business, right? So you have to factor in the amount you're going to gain as a construction firm or as a project. You understand? So this is very, very important. This is where all the struggling, the bringing together of engineers, the contractors, the subcontractors, blah 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 blah. But at the end of the day, are you going to make a profit from this construction itself? So that is why this point is very, very important, because profit and markup. So, and for profit and markup, we have contractor profit. So as a contractor, how do you profit from a project? Is it after maybe the bill have been assented to? Your client has assented to the bill, right? Your client has agreed to the bill. Is that after the bill has been assented to that you tend to make profit, or you actually need to include your profit in the bill? Because if your client has actually assented to a particular bill and both of you have signed, you understand, it only takes a reasonable client, maybe in case of eventuality or casualty, for them to be able to review such a bill. But if advently you didn't include your profit into the bill, then it's none of the client's problem. So you have to actually consider your profit, and there are ways of actually doing this. There are modalities to this phase of profit. Then we have management fees. We have management fees. So I think I'll leave this management fees for you guys to just give us an example of it in the comment section. So you just tell us what is management fees and how do we assess this type of fees.